Hi guys, and welcome to the final part of the Life of Bruce Lee series. I've tried to condense it as much as I can, and it's still in several parts, so I'm trying my best. So if you can like and share the video, that would be amazing, and subscribe if you haven't already. And any questions, again, drop it in the comments section below, and I'll be more than happy to help. So in the last video, we left it off where Enter the Dragon had been completed. And yeah, so Enter the Dragon was completed around, I think, April 1973. Bruce was dubbing the film, his parts of the film, because films were still dubbed. I mean, this was a Warner Brother production. However, it was still dubbed. They shot without sound, I believe, and the film was dubbed afterwards. So he was dubbing, and he suffered what I think was to be kind of a brain hemorrhage, where he fainted, didn't know what caused it, and recovered, so luckily. So he flew back to America, got one of the top LA doctors to do a health check, a physical, and yeah, said basically you're got the body of an 18-year-old. So of course, Bruce Lee, being how he was, that was kind of buoyed by that, you know, flew back to Hong Kong, where Enter the Dragon was set for release, then went back to Game of Death, started planning for these extra levels on pagodas, which I talked about in the last video, and started doing things on that. And then, come 20th July 1973, he had a meeting with, I think, George Lazenby was present, Raymond Chow. However, Bruce never made, they were to have an evening meeting where they discuss script ideas, and Bruce never made it. He was back at a work colleague's in Hong Kong, complained of a headache. She gave him a headache tablet. Bruce went to lie down and never awoke. Now, because this was at a work, she was an actress and a work colleague, when it got out to the press, they had a field day, as you can imagine, which must have been terrible on his wife. People still to this day believe it was like the death touch. Bruce was beaten up by the Chinese triads. Different things, but anyway, it was determined that Bruce died of cerebral edema, swelling of the brain. Okay, so that's what happened. So what happened then was Bruce, they had a funeral in Hong Kong, and then Linda Lee, his wife, decided they wanted to move out of Hong Kong and back to Seattle, which is where they took Bruce and had him laid to rest at Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle, and had a second funeral there, attended by people like Steve McQueen and James Coburn, and of course his students, Danny Nasanto, Taki Kimura. They acted as pallbearers. James Lee had also passed by this stage of cancer, so he wasn't around. They had this second funeral, he was laid to rest, and that's it. So Bruce, to this day, since he passed, I don't really need to say how much kind of influence he had, except to say that specifically Chinese film stars to this day, i.e. Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Donnie Yen, people with pretty much everyone's heard of, still consider him to be either the greatest or most influential on them. He's inspired people in different fields, such as, say, Sugar Ray Leonard, a famous boxer, in different areas, such as Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mike Tyson, I believe, people like that. And Robert Downey Jr. also has actually started training Wing Chun, possibly due to Bruce Lee's influence. So a lot of people to this day, if they train in martial arts, where they've either watched Bruce Lee and got inspired, not necessarily in JKD and Wing Chun, but any martial art, karate, they've gone into it often because of Bruce Lee and his influence. So he's inspired film stars, music stars, martial artists in different styles, yeah, to this day. And he's also inspired people who have carried on where he left off. It was started by Bruce Lee. So the world of martial arts to this day, whether people like it or not, is much, much healthier and more open and encompassing as a result of him being here. So on that note, guys, Bruce Lee, 32 years old, and really, as Bruce said, the key to immortality is living a life worth remembering. So on that note, guys, that series is finished. I hope you enjoyed it, and until the next video, I'll see you then.